on and off again for Sunday school, our series that is. But today we're going to keep going through our Resolving Conflict, Personal Conflict series. What am I calling it? Personal? It just says conflict? Sure, we'll just go with that. The book that I've been utilizing, which is the abridged version, is called Resolving Everyday Conflicts. Alex and I have been reading through it to prepare to teach, and it really is a fantastic and succinct guide. I don't know about you, but conflict is not something that I desire. It's not something that maybe I should, but I don't expect it. So whenever it comes, it kind of blindsides me. Even the last 6 weeks or so, my family's had another conflict that we've been hit. Not together, like against each other, but from the outside in. And it's just kind of like, what do we do? There's so many things we could do, respond, say, mentalities that we're thinking through. What are they thinking? Why are they angry? So it can be very difficult. I'll use an extreme as an example. And if a gunman walked into this room, this very moment, what two responses would be most likely that we would see in this room? Two responses of us to a gunman that walked in this room.
Alex would grab his gun in his back pocket.
Okay. There'd be the fight option. Somebody would have a gun. Are you carrying right now? No. Okay. Are you supposed to say no even though you're saying yes?
Concealed carry. He'd have to let you know.
Okay, great. So he could fight back. What's another option that you might do? Fight and flight. Those are two very common responses. What he calls it in this, which is a little bit more precise, it doesn't rhyme quite in the same cool way, is escaping and attacking. And he differentiates some of those. Mr. Sandy, the author of this book, Ken Sandy, tells the story of a woman who once had some coworkers, two high-level engineers who could not get along. This is not a story about Wes and Ethan, I promise. Two high-level engineers who could not get along. And they had people that were trying to reconcile them. They even what's the word? No, they warned them that they made them think like they're going to get fired. What's the word I'm looking for? My brain is so tired. Threatened. Thank you. My brain is so tired. They threatened that they would fire them, and even still they wouldn't get along. Each of them persisted. And so Mr. Sandy says that she had just completed a course on biblical peacemaking. So she offered, even though she's not a professional, to help them to reconcile. And sure enough, as they were able to dig under the surface a little bit, there was a former boss of both of them that had made disparaging comments about each of them, and they each thought that the other person was at fault and that they were the innocent one. And so once they realized that the common enemy was not the enemy was not the other person, they had a common enemy, somebody who was poisoning the relationship with each other. They finally were able to make some progress. And she said, this woman, more of my coworkers have approached me for the secret of my approach of reconciling, and I've had more opportunities to point people to Jesus in the last 12 months than I've had in the last 10 years of working at this place. But that's not normal. What's normal? I'm wrong, I'm right, you're wrong. I'm right, you're wrong. And then you have these defense mechanisms that you go through. But what Ken Sandy says is that conflict is an opportunity that, contrary to human response, can be resulting in peaceful solutions. as hard as it is, we need to see conflict as an opportunity to solve problems in a way that benefits those that are involved and that honors God. He uses an excellent diagram, and if I were smarter or faster, I would have had the projector pulled up, but I'll instead use hand motions because I was too slow on the draw. Here is a hill. He calls it the slippery slope. In either direction, except for the very middle, you keep sliding deeper and faster into sin. So if the top of the hill where you don't slide is biblical reconciliation and other things like that, mediation, arbitration, accountability, even the ability to overlook and love one another amidst their offenses. Those are good things that keep you on the top of the hill. But very quickly, it falls off. You and I cannot choose what conflicts come into our lives usually. Sometimes, if your name is Dustin Battles, you can pick a woman and make her battles. Nice. But most of the time, you can't choose your battles. They come to you. Just trying to keep you guys. Thank you. Just keeping you guys on your toes. Most of the time, you can't choose your battles. They come to you. And when they come to you, you have no choice but to respond. And hopefully you respond in biblical ways with grace, you might put into one word. And there are several responses. They each tend to be in these two directions, what he calls escape, meaning flight, or attack, meaning fight. There's also the freeze option. You just don't know what to do. It's and you're freezing. But he's not going to really address that here because this is not usually the case with conflict. There's usually some sort of escape or attack going on here. So let's talk about what he calls the left side of the hill, which is for you on this side. When we start to slide down this hill away from biblical reconciliation and we head toward, what did I say this was? The left side of the hill? That is the escape response, to run away. The person who is trying to win the argument is doing so in a way that causes you to just want to get away. What product is it in the commercials that says "want to get away"? Southwest. There you go. Want to get away. You want to take the flight to Cancun or wherever, and you want to get away. But he says this is not a good option, and biblically it's not a good option either. And if we just think that we can have a little bit of one, whether attacking or escaping, we will quickly fall all the way down there. He says, imagine the hill is covered by ice. So let's look at this escape response. Why do people use escape responses? Why have you used escape responses? Why do you want to get away? Run away?
It's easier to just not deal with it.
You do not do it. Sweep it under the rug, ignore it. Okay, what else?
Feels like it's usually a faster resolution.
How so?
You don't have to bother with attacking.
Okay. You don't have to figure out what your strategy is to fight back. You just leave. And you let the other person win. You cut your losses. Is that how you cannot say that? And you just say, this is a battle I can't win. I'm just going to leave.
I'm embarrassed and don't want to admit it.
Okay. I've been wrong. I know I'm wrong. But if I just leave, then I won't have to say anything. Yeah. Pretend like it never happened. What usually is at the core is when people escape, when you and I escape, is we're more interested in avoiding the conflict, not experiencing its pain, than we are actually resolving it and all the pain that it requires. For some reason, there is a mentality in hearts, generally speaking, and I include my own in this, that it makes it feel like conflict is wrong, that having hard discussions is wrong. But that's not the problem. The problem is responding in an ungodly way. Some people think that, well, Christians should just always agree, and that when we try to work through these things, it just dusts things up, and it causes more problems than it's worth. But scripturally speaking, we have to address conflict. One way to escape conflict is just denying that it exists. What are you complaining about? We're fine. Stop getting in my face about this. We're okay. We're going to get through this. But denial is only a river in Egypt. It's not actually a good thing for us to have in the Christian life. Glad you got that one, Peter. If we don't accept that a problem is real, we're not doing what needs to be done to resolve a conflict properly. You can fool other people, even yourself, but in the end, it only brings temporary relief. If I have a broken leg and I just try to say, oh, it's fine, it'll get better. It'll get better. Maybe. Or it could heal really badly and be even worse, and I have a limp for the rest of my life. That's not a good thing. Another way to escape conflict is just by fleeing, running away. What are some examples of fleeing conflict that you can think of?
When Joseph took Mary and Jesus to Egypt when Herod was being crazy.
Okay, that's a good example. Protecting, warned ahead of time. What are some other examples of fleeing? Maybe sinful responses.
Oh, sinful responses, never mind.
Okay.
I had another example of a good time to flee with.
Okay. There is a time to flee. Joseph with Potiphar's wife, yeah.
Claiming your wife as your sister.
Okay. That would be more like denial. You're denying reality. What's another example? Jonah runs away from the Lord, flees the opposite direction of Nineveh. Nineveh's east and he goes west to Tarshish. What in the world, guy?
When you try to have a conversation with somebody and they just close their ears and say, I don't want to hear it, I don't want to hear it, they shut the conversation down.
Okay. Has anybody ever known someone who's left a church because they didn't want to deal with the issues involved? People leave churches at the drop of a hat. I know so many people, including people from our church here, that will leave via email or leave with a phone call. I don't like what is being done at the church. I don't like this. I don't like you. I don't like whatever. I'm done. And that's it. They're gone. What's another modern day sinful example of fleeing instead of staying put and working through the issue?
Just last night we were on a walk with Hypatia, and she was not listening to us, so she ran ahead and refused to come back to talk to us about the issue.
Literally ran ahead.
I think children do that a lot.
Cover their ears, run away. La 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 la.
And a pretty extreme example, it could be divorce.
It can be divorce. I don't want to work through the issues. I want to just escape the situation. Ending a friendship that my friend hurt me. And so ghosting the person, to use modern day analogies, unless that's already out of vogue. Do people still use that? Ghosting?
You're still hip, Dustin.
I'm still hip, thank you. You just ghost a person. I had that happen to me one time. And I just couldn't understand. Like, we had just been talking, and then nothing. What happened? It's extremely frustrating.
I think packing your schedule so busy that you can use busyness as an excuse to not deal with stuff.
When are you going to get together? Oh, man, it's just really busy right now. Avoiding the problem. Flight tactics can be in every area of life, home, family, church. But what can you never escape from, as Jonah learned? You can't escape from God. Neither can you escape the sin within your own heart. You can flee all sorts of situations, but who will you never get away from? Yourself and your own sinful problems. Flight is almost always a harmful way to deal with conflict unless you're Joseph fleeing from sin or something like that. Now, it can be, to clarify, a helpful tool to temporarily and with communication withdraw to pray. Married couples who are not agreeing with one another, they can resolve for a short period of time to pray and not come together. That's 1 Corinthians 7. If there's some situation where there needs to be a physical safety for a woman, for instance, who's being abused by a husband or something, those can be helpful things. But most of the time what we're dealing with is not healthy fleeing, it's unhealthy, sinful fleeing. That every time something comes up, there is some effort to not address the actual situation. Usually, when people try to escape, people are usually focused on themselves, trying to focus on what's easy, what's convenient, what's non-threatening. And what Ken Sandy calls this is not peacemaking, but peace faking. As a word guy, I like that. That's a good one. Peace faking, he says, happens when I care more about the appearance of peace than the reality of peace. What do you mean? We're showing up at the family gatherings together. What's the problem? I don't know. The fact that you're not talking to each other, the fact that you're not dealing with the actual issues and working through them to either cover it in love or forgive any transgressions. This is a problem. The other problem, and I'm not sure we're going to have time to get through it. You know what we might do is we might work through the attack responses and then leave for another week for Alex to talk about the better option. So we'll be a little negative today for the sake of time. The attack options are not fleeing or flight, but it's a chance for people to assert their rights, control others, take advantage of the situation. He said something really apt here, which kind of jarred me, but then I realized he's so right. While attack responses are often employed by strong and confident people, they are often used by weak, fearful, insecure, or vulnerable people. What do you think he means by that? Why isn't it just strong, assertive, proud people who are attackers? Liam?
Because when we talk about somebody responding defensively, they're trying to keep themselves from getting hurt, themselves from receiving hurt. And so the best defense is sometimes a good offense, right?
When you back a cat into a corner, it lashes out.
It's self-preservation. Weak, fearful people. I don't know what's going to happen. I might not be able to control that person, but I can at least control my response and show that person that I'm in control. And I'm not going to be controlled by them. I can try my best. It seems as if there's an attempt to do something about it. The fleeing, escaping option feels kind of like I'm avoiding it. This is more of like, I'm going to try to stay alive. And to some extent, there's some virtue in that of trying to not die, so to speak. But there's so many other problems along with it. Sometimes people attack, we attack, because we can no longer ignore, cover up, or run away from the problem. It's here, I have to deal with it. I can't just lie about it, ignore it. It has to be actually addressed. So I'm going to make you feel like you're the problem when really the problem is with me. Sometimes that response can be assault. Sometimes it can be manipulation or intimidation, or to use a modern-day word, which I recently learned from reading and preparing for this, is a term that comes from a 1944 movie called Gaslight. Did you guys know that? I didn't know that. It's kind of interesting. Gaslighting is when you make the person think that they're the crazy ones. It's manipulation, a form of it anyway. And it can be just as much an attack. Well, how would you not know? I'm such a loving person. How would you not know that I'm a loving person? Don't you want my love? I'm just loving you. Do you hear it's dripping with not actual love, but an insult that you don't know that they love you? Sometimes there can be verbal assaults with curse words or mean words or even, of course, physical intimidation. A man who bullies his wife with his physical presence. Or a woman who uses her hurtful words to cut down her husband because she wants to maintain control. It can also be seen in sarcasm and humor. That's a dangerous one for me. It can be a helpful tool to lighten the mood, but it can also be something to pull people down and harm them with my words. Sometimes people like this will say, well, I didn't mean it, or I was just joking. But that doesn't make them any less destructive. Sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. Who said that? They were so wrong. My body will heal, but some of the words that I've been spoken words to, I'll never forget. Maybe you're the same way. There's also the aspect that he says, he uses a word, but I know what he means, but this is not how you and I perceive it. The word litigation. He's like, it's not an actual courtroom, but the court of public opinion. I am going to plead before the public opinion court by going to family, friends, colleagues, strangers, and I'm going to tell them how much I have suffered. That one stung a little bit as I was reading that one. Because there's a fine line between getting counsel and just airing one's grievances against some other person who's not there to defend him or herself. How this can go about is not only with other people, but also in our own minds. Man, if I had said. Basically, you're accusing yourself of not doing something you should have. It can be actual lawsuits, of course. And that's what 1 Corinthians 6 addresses. Christians are commanded to settle their differences within the church, not the civil courts. So-and-so sues such and such church, or Christian sues Christian because for such and such damage. There can be legitimate uses of this, but between Christians, this should not be an option, and we should try to work things out with conflict worker, a person who specializes in this, or a pastor, another Christian. Litigation might resolve the situation circumstantially, but it might not ever achieve true biblical reconciliation. I'm sure we've already talked about this, so let's define our terms. What is biblical reconciliation? What's reconciliation? Somebody offer a guess.
True forgiveness.
Okay, true forgiveness. That would be a component of it, yeah.
A restoration of whatever relationship was broken.
Okay, it can include restoration. Yeah. Reconciliation is taking two parties who are at odds with one another, enmity or hostility, making them to be at peace. That key word is peace there. It can include forgiveness. It can include, what was the word you said? restoration. But sometimes that trust is not fully restored, but there can be a peace. So when we use the word biblical reconciliation, and when you use it with other people, I would like to reconcile with you. That means to make peace, to utilize forgiveness. I have sinned against you, will you forgive me? That's biblical reconciliation. And reconciliation is something that we should strive to achieve rather than attacking or fleeing. Here's some examples he gives of the slippery slope. So assault is one, or I guess it'd be this way for you. Attack, some sort of litigation. What's the worst case scenario of attack? Worst case scenario? Murder. How many Dateline and 2020 episodes are there out there that it has gone down that slippery slope? And then before you know it, the wife's trying to kill her husband or whatever the case may be. The opposite, escape, it's what I'm denying it, I'm fleeing from the situation. What's the ultimate example of fleeing? Suicide. I cannot handle my situations anymore. I am at the stage of life where the midlife crisis is coming into play, and more of my acquaintances and former colleagues and peers in school and growing up are taking their lives through suicide. I have a pastor friend who just 2 years ago or so who took his life selfishly. I just found out about another one maybe 2 weeks ago. What are they really trying to do? They're trying to escape the difficulty of their situation. If attacks are about peace faking, what did I say? Thank you. If escape is about peace faking, what are attacks about?
Peace wrecking?
You're close, it rhymes. Peace breaking. Sacrificing people to get what I want. Peace breaking happens when I care less about our relationship than I do about winning this argument. Megan says it this way in our house. We care more about people than we care about stuff. She tells that to the boys all the time. Your brother and being in good relationship with him is more important than your stuffy or your toy or your game or whatever. Those things are more important. But peace breaking happens when you care more about winning, about the situation, the conflict, than you do about the actual person. I have to get my words in, make sure that I'm heard. Are the kids done, Megan? No? Okay, I'll keep going then. I'm almost done. The slippery slope is a tool that you can use to help figure out where you are on this. And you can veer from one to the other depending on the situation. But he says there's a better way. If the natural response is to escape or attack, peacemaking is the only method that actually resolves conflicts. To be at peace with one another. For instance, if you can escape or attack, it might temporarily help the situation, but oftentimes it's only temporary. For instance, if a noxious gas came into this room right now, and I just decided I was going to stick it out and hold my breath, well, that wouldn't help at all. I could flee. That might be one option. But another option would be we actually go to the furnace and we see why it's emitting some noxious gas. When we pursue peace, we have a long-term solution, at least a better probability of a long-term resolution. If we energetically pursue peacemaking, we can expect a much greater likelihood of positive results, is what Sandy said. That is a hard pill to swallow. To go to the things that need to be addressed, somebody who's at odds with you, and to try to work through it, very hard. So then the next chapters, which I assume Alex is going to continue, is 4 G's. glorify God, get the log out of your own eye, gently restore, and go and be reconciled. So Alex will look at that in these next few weeks. And admittedly, they are not easy. But utilize this. If you have a conflict going through, if you need some extra help, I've been reading alongside of this some other resources that might be helpful to you. But this is a great primer, Primer, not to be confused with primer on the subject of peacemaking. And know that the Bible has the answers for these difficult problems, and that your pastor is here to help you, and know that we are not masters at it, and we're still working through it ourselves. Any questions remaining?
What about siblings? When I have two sisters who have been fighting for years, and one says they're sorry, and for, if they've done something, I'm sorry, and the other one doesn't accept that. And then the one sister says she's sorry, and then I'm in the middle. They each want me to take their side. And I'm having to try to stay out of the middle.
Yeah. The full answer would require a longer conversation, but the short answer is this. Biblical reconciliation can happen between the two of them, and that maybe you could be a means to helping them. And if they're going to do so, they're going to have to do so according to God's word, and not just covering up the issue, not ignoring it, not downplaying it. Work through true biblical forgiveness. I have found that most people who think that they have a massive issue that cannot be forgiven, that cannot be overlooked, really haven't looked too deeply at who Christ is and what he's done, and they haven't looked very deeply about how it can be reconciled if they have that understanding of who Christ is. But I'd be glad to talk with you afterwards about that. Not easy. Not easy. Any other questions? My last Sunday teaching from this book, my last lesson. We'll see you next Sunday, Lord willing. Business meeting. Yes. Can you fetch the voting members? Let's do some business.